other people to infiltration of the U.S. government, all the things that were done, those were done under Hubbard orders. And what happened in the months that followed that FBI raid is the Guardian's Office and the Commodore's Messenger Organization went into full all-hanses of scores and scores of people doing full-time vetting just to erase from the files all of Hubbard's orders and so on and so forth that were behind these criminal actions. So the thing about Scientology is corporate structure has never meant much anything. It's always been camouflage. It's always Hubbard who controlled it when he was competent enough at least to control it, and then it was Miscavige.
So Miscavige began his career as Hubbard's henchman.
That is absolutely correct, and he did it through what was called an all-clear unit, which allegedly was to make it all clear for Hubbard to come out of hiding. But what it did is it broke down into two confidential special units. One was called Special Project, and that's what DM stated in himself, and that evolved into being Author Services. Another part of that unit became known as Special Unit. That's the one that I ended up running as Special Unit IC, and that went into Church of Scientology International. But that was how the control was executed. It wasn't on any organizing boards or anything like that. It was Miscavige ran both of those units. I mean, to give you another example, how clear-cut that... For one thing, Hubbard, it's very clear Hubbard lied about his past and his accomplishments and all that, and it's very clear that DM has as well. But in my opinion, I think the average judge is going to find that DM's lies became legal perjury and a crime. Yeah. And the reason I say that is he's testified in court with these lies, and he's written declarations under penalty of perjury and filed them in like the Wallersheim case and other cases in the 90s. For example, here are a couple of little quotes, right? And this is from Miscavige under penalty of perjury. He goes, "Neither RTC nor I have any corporate authority over any Scientology church, including CSI." He says, "The C organization is a religious fraternal order like the Catholic priesthood with its own rituals and traditions that exemplify and foster members' shared and deeply held commitment to the religion. It confers no corporate or ecclesiastical authority. Sea Org members are staffs in many churches of Scientology across the globe. Any authority they have in the church entity that employs them derives from their position in that church structure and not their honorary status in the Sea organization." He's got hundreds of quotes like this that are absolutely false. Like he had one he's even made a mistake on that he's proven he's a liar. And like, for example, in one section 57 of a declaration in the Wallersheim case, he says, "I was not involved in that restructuring, but I'm aware of the events that led up to it." And he was talking about the 1981 corporate evolution and restructuring.
Yeah. So
from his declaration, he's absolutely not involved. But then if you go to a website called scientologytoday.org /corp/RTC2, they're praising David Miscavige. They said, here's a quote, "Mr. David Miscavige has worked tirelessly to protect the religion. He authored the early 1980s reorganization of church corporate and management structures that have given the religion years of sustained growth and stable leadership." So they can't even keep their lies straight. And also, he didn't author it. I brought it to him. He blew his opportunity of doing it a year prior to that because he couldn't understand it. So he didn't author it, but like Hubbard, he starts to claim all these things. But he's even making statements now that are showing as lies things that he made under penalty of perjury in court cases. So it's kind of crazy. And I don't know if you want me to continue to give examples, but I could give examples for 10 straight hours on this.
Unfortunately, we don't have that kind of time. It would be great. Yeah. We'd have to take quite a few breaks, I think.
Okay. Well,
all right.
I think bottom line is it goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, this is probably, to bring somebody inside the corporate sort out, for example, on a very simple level that proves this point. When we broke up the Church of Scientology of California, let's say just for the flag area, which was now in Clearwater, Florida, we created 3 new corporations that were relevant to that area. The Church of Scientology International, which is the mother church, that would have a few representatives down there in Florida. the Church of Scientology Flag Service Organization, which would be most of them, and then, of course, we kept the Church of Scientology of California alive with a few people there. Well, it was us, the missionaries under Miscavige, who decided who was going into which corporation. And even their quote-unquote board members, the people we picked to be that, they didn't even know what was going on. We would just say, this one's going to be in this corporation, this one will take the orders from that one. And we were setting up all the window dressing. In fact, we pulled a bunch of students off courses at Flag and sent them all around the world to get the churches to sign the new agreements with the new mother church, Church of Scientology International. And the local churches, for the most part, didn't even know who their board members were. They never met, and they weren't allowed to read the agreements. I myself was sent by Miscavige to pubs and New Era Publications in Copenhagen, Denmark, to get them to sign the new royalty contracts with Hubbard. They didn't even get to read them. So it's not just that maybe there's a little bit of out corporate integrity. It's a 100% controlled by Hubbard and then Miscavige, with just a whole bunch of camouflage put around it to make it look like it's not. But,
so these boards of directors, these various corporate entities there, it's all a sham.
Oh,
am I right?
Absolutely. And it was under the Guardian's office. I mean, the Guardian's office held undated resignations of them per Hubbard orders. But the thing is, the big change that Miscavige says happened, took over the GO, and it's a new era. It's a new era, all right. You kept the same Hubbard orders. And do you know that in 1982 alone, more Scientologists, this is staff and public, were abused in what they call a gangbang sect check, where a bunch of people would go and scream at them on a meter and all that.
Yeah. Well, it's Soviet. It's kind of Soviet Nazi style interrogation.
Oh, absolutely. And more that happened, and more Scientologists were declared, beaten, and abused and sent to penal camps in that 1 year under Miscavige than in the total of the 15 years under the Guardian's office worldwide.
Okay, we should qualify that. Now, you said penal camps. What are you specifically referring to?
Primarily what's called the Rehabilitation Project Forces, and that's something that Hubbard created and the Miscavige used a lot. And people would be sent to these where they would be housed, for the most part, there are so many stories on the Internet that people can read of people who have escaped them or left them for one reason or another, and they're telling their stories. But for the most part, people lived in squalor. They worked unbelievable hours. They got very little sleep. They were indoctrinated all the time. They had to run around. They were spit upon in cases where they were up by Miscavige and all that. And it was just a horrible hell. I mean, what shows you how disingenuous organized Scientology under Miscavige is, that relates directly to this is, for example, they have an organization called the International Association of Scientologists. It's nothing more than a bank account to get membership money out of people who want to continue to do services.
Yeah.
Well, what happens is they put out a very beautiful, glossy magazine called Impact. I mean, it's a really high quality in that it's as good as National Geographic. The color photos and the quality of the paper. Well, a recent one, I think issue 115, some earlier this year, came out acknowledging how organized Scientology is behind the Universal UN Declaration of Human Rights. And they went and listed all these incredible human rights. Freedom of association and of family and being able to voice your opinion and all this other, and freedom of movement. And in that magazine, there's like maybe two pictures of Hubbard, but there's like 15 pictures of David Miscavige, smiling, happy. But right when you read that magazine, you have to realize that at that same time, there are hundreds of people that have all those rights denied them on rehabilitation project forces around the world. Like, it's not in some areas, like the German government, for example, won't allow the church to do a rehabilitation project force, like a camp.
Yeah.
At the same time you're reading about these wonderful, grand, beautiful things by organized Scientology, they're violating all of those rights on their very own people.
Yeah.
Many of them, their own top management people who were very good people, had very good intentions, were sacrificing their lives to do something they believed in. You can say maybe it was silly of them, whatever, but they were putting it all on the line, and they'd be the very people that would be sent to these penal camps, that would be slapped, that would be beaten, that would be humiliated, that would be made to divorce, made to have abortions. That's a clear planet, as Scientology says they want, a planet